Every now and again, I come up with an idea for the podcast and I send myself a little note. And sometimes it sits in my emails unopened but flagged. Sometimes it makes its way to a list of podcast episode ideas. And sometimes it gets deleted because I look at it and I go, oh no, I don't have the energy for that anymore. Welcome to the Henny Flynn podcast, the space for deepening self-awareness with profound self-compassion. I'm Henny. I write, coach and speak about how exploring our inner world can transform how we experience our outer world, all founded on a bedrock of self-love. Settle in and listen and see where the episode takes you. And every now and again, I return to either the ones that have been flagged or the ones that have been listed, and I feel into whether something is still calling my attention. And that is what has happened today. So I am still recording this one from hospital, like last week's. Things are looking more positive, and that's wonderful. But it does mean that you might be able to hear lift doors, people, gurneys going by. But I found another quiet little corner of a closed coffee shop at one end of a very, very long hospital corridor, and all is well. So I want to sort of gear change really and talk about this idea that came to me when we were in New Zealand at the end of last year visiting our son. And while I was there, I had the most spectacular personal experience. I mean, it was spectacular in every way. Beautiful country. I mean, the absolute joy of being with our boy. Just being able to take time out and the privilege of being able to be there and to do that. I felt every ounce of that. I also got what I can only guess was COVID while I was there, lost my sense of smell and taste. So I'm guessing that was probably what it was. So a few days were spent in bed. But even that was fine. Everything was good. And um, and I'd love to share with you a particular thing that happened one day. So we are walking a very short stretch of the Kepler Trail, and it's one of New Zealand's great walks. And before we went to New Zealand, I'd heard about these phenomenal walks that there are through this, remote landscape that is most of New Zealand. And I was really determined to do a stretch of one of these walks. To do a full walk is a big undertaking, and we definitely weren't equipped for that. But we set off one day, and as we crossed over this enormous swing bridge, a huge rope bridge, and we were standing in the center of this bridge over this massive rushing river. And I need to find out the name of the river, and I'll share it with you in the notes. But I was looking upriver. I was looking, to where the water was coming from. The water was heading towards us, and I was standing in the middle of this rope swing bridge, and it's all very elemental, all very kind of organic, and and felt incredibly alive just standing there and watching the water rush towards us and pass tens of feet. I don't know how high we were, maybe sort of 20, 30 feet above the water. And and now a machine started up. I'm so sorry. This is going to be a really noisy background episode, but and then Anton says to me, "Oh, look the other way." I turned around. I looked downriver. And so I was in the flow of the energy that was rushing along this riverbed. And I felt the most incredible sort of whoosh of energy come through me. My eyes filled up with tears, my heart beat faster, and my breath was leaving my body in these great gulping exhalations. It was like I couldn't live big enough to hold the energy that was rushing through me. I like that phrase. I couldn't live big enough to hold the energy that was rushing through me. And actually, of course, it turned out I could live big enough. I could expand out and into that energy. And it was one of those moments that felt like it went on forever and probably was just a few moments. And I turned toward Anton, who is obviously laughing at this point because he said, I only said, look at the view. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel the whole of life is here. And and it was, oh, it was just magical. It was absolutely magical. And it was, I think, sort of elemental. Um, that kind of sudden tapping in to something that innately I think we all know is there. Um, and that sometimes, it can kind of land upon us or within us at moments that we just don't expect it to. Um, or, personally, I'd say there have been times in my life where I've looked for it. I've been in incredibly beautiful places and been filled with awe and almost, maybe kind of yearned for something more. I think if I sort of sit with that, I think that's true. Um, and maybe because of that yearning, not being able to be so fully present with the awesomeness that was around me. And I just wonder whether any of this resonates with you, either that feeling of yearning or the feeling of the sort of suddenness of the intense beauty of the world suddenly filling you. I think it's something that writers like Mary Oliver were very familiar with, actually, both of those experiences I feel kind of resonate with her, and many of the incredible sort of natural history writers of our time, poets like Wordsworth, they really, really understood the immensity of this connection that we can have with the oneness, the thing that connects all of us. We are natural beings. We're not something other than the natural world. We are the embodiment of the natural world, just as a flower is the embodiment of the natural world, or a river, or a mountain, or a fox. We all are. And so, yeah, sort of, oh gosh, that felt very lyrical as I shared that. So then later on, we hadn't even begun the walk at this point. We'd literally just left the car park and stepped onto the bridge, and I was already having an out of body experience, or an in body experience. Maybe that's more appropriate. Anyway, so we do this beautiful walk. It's astonishing through ancient forest, moss dripping from the trees. I took so many photographs of moss and and trees. And what's so wonderful about these great walks in New Zealand is that they are tended for. So, there isn't the undercurrent of fear that you might get lost. It's clearly marked, but it still feels wild. It's very, very carefully done. And and so we walk, I don't know, a few miles, and then we come to this bay on one of the Great Lakes, and it feels like we're one of the great explorers landing in a place that's never been inhabited, except for the fact that there were a few other walkers around, but it still had that quality to it. And And so we sat very briefly on the sandy beach at the water's edge. But the little biting sandflies that are famous in New Zealand, they soon sent us sent us back into the woods. But it was, yes, it was beautiful. And then we were walking back. And then I was thinking about what had happened on the swing bridge. And I just thought, I wonder if that feeling is here. I wonder if it's like intrinsically here. And so I held my hands on a tree and felt the same energy flowing inside me, the same sort of rush of connection. And and so then I was like, oh, this is really interesting. My curiosity is piqued, and I walk a little further and I lay my hands on another tree, and it's the same. It's this like this thrumming energy running through. Anton's quite used to this, so he's just wandering it on ahead. Um, but my feeling was that this wasn't something that was special or unique, or certainly not unique to me in any way. It was something that felt so incredibly ordinary. It felt like the most ordinary truth that there could possibly be. And it's the same thing that makes everything in life so special. And the words that came out of my mouth when I was trying to explain this to Anton was my sense that we are all part of the universal hum. I'm going to say that again because there's some big background noises. But how it felt to me is that we are all part of the universal hum. And I think that's what I was feeling, somehow, for some reason, I was gifted that moment of being able to tap into it and feel it. And I suspect that everybody who walks those trails feels it in their own way. Um, and everyone who climbs a mountain, everyone who sits and looks at a blade of grass in a municipal, park and really, really sees it. I think, and it's so hilarious because there's a massive hum going on in the background. That's the universe sharing a little joke with us. This universal hum, it is everywhere. And I think because of maybe one of the reasons why this whole topic resonated with me again today, having written the note for it back on the 3rd of December last year, is because I am in a hospital. I have been facing into some of those really big questions over the last few weeks. And, while the reason for being in the hospital isn't mine to share, the very fact of being here means that I've also, consciously and unconsciously been facing into threads of my own mortality and the mortality of those that I love. And all of that is all part of this universal hum, this ability that we have as sentient beings to be with our experiences on multiple levels. And Anton, who studied philosophy at university, he said, when I told him this idea that we're all part of the universal hum, just that was some extra voices, contributants to the podcast then. But when I said to Anton about we're all part of the universal hum, his response was, yes, of course. It's just that some things amplify it. And I really love that concept that there are some things that amplify it, some things that enable us to feel things more keenly. And sometimes that's in relationship with each other, profound love, deep grief, loss, pain, immense joy, these things that we can really sort of tap into through the experience of our shared humanity, our shared humanness. And then we've got, this experience of our connection with the natural world and our shared beingness, with the natural world, with all of the beings, and all life that is uh, around us. And I think, when we deny that, when we don't deny that connection that we all have, we are all born of this earth and return to this earth. When we deny that connection in some way or try to separate ourselves from our natural state, I think that's when we also become separate from our compassion in some way, or from our empathy, or from our ability to be in community. So, and that really leads me to the thing that I think is most important for all of us right now, which is to connect. It's certainly the thing that in polyvagal theory that we can see, in so much of psychology, that we can see that what we most desire as human beings is connection. And sometimes we get that connection from others of the same group, and who think the same as us. And that can be very valuable and very useful, but it can also be very separating, because it means that we become separate from others. And so really, when we think about connection, what we're looking for is the ability to connect with all beings, with compassion, with kindness, and to be able to listen to and hear our shared needs and the shared needs of this planet. So I didn't expect that to go that way. I've clearly been feeling a bit philosophical about it all. Gosh, I mean, does that resonate with you? Does any of what I've just said resonate with you? The universal hum, our shared need for connection, the places that we can find connection, whether that's with other humans or in the natural world. What stands out for you? And I'd love to hear from you. Please, do email me. I love it when I get emails from people about the podcast episodes. It sort of, it helps to spark my own thoughts, and maybe there's something here that we build on in some way. I'd love to see, maybe this takes us into another episode, and sort of reflecting back on the reflections that I received from you. So please do. And I think ultimately this whole episode is a way of answering the question of what makes you think you're so special. There's that sort of dreadful kind of criticism that can get thrown at us. I think particularly like when we're at school, I definitely remember teachers saying that to other pupils. I mean, it's awful. What makes you think you're so special? Well, everything, of course. Life. Just the fact that we are alive on this tiny rock spinning around in this ever-expanding universe. I mean, I'd say that's pretty special. So there we go. That's it. And oh gosh, yes. Hopefully next weekend's episode will not be from a hospital corner. You never know. I might be back home and recording it from there, which would be for all the right reasons. Let's hope so. All right, darlings. Send you so much love and a hug and a wave.